Welcome to the table. I'm Kelly, and I'm here to tell you how to actually run a one-shot and get your players inside the door of the Tomb of Annihilation so you don't spend your entire New Year's Eve role-playing some stupid gargoyles despite telling your players again and again, no matter how many insight checks they make, that the gargoyles are not the BBEG and they just need to go inside the tomb so we can actually start playing so you don't feel like a failure as a DM. So, if you actually want to run your one-shots in one session, the first tip is to start your players on the road, at the door, inside the castle walls, or wherever the adventure takes place. Many pre-written one-shots start with a quest hook that requires your players to accept before you can actually start the one-shot. Plot hooks and story hooks are great for campaigns. You can give your players lots of options, and their characters already have a reason to be adventuring together. With a one-shot, your group has gotten together with the express purpose of playing D&D for one evening in a set amount of time, usually with characters they are playing for the first time. If you start your one-shot with a quest hook, you can spend a lot of time interacting with whatever NPC is actually giving the plot hook, having your players decide to go on the quest, and then making up motivations for why their characters are going on this quest with these random other people. But I'll talk more about character motivations later. Recently, I've been narrating the quest hook and starting my players at the location that the adventure actually starts. With this one super easy change, I've managed to finish one-shots in a single sitting, something I'd never done before. The next way to make sure your one-shot is a one-shot is to limit the number of encounters. I know, duh. But by encounters, I mean anything that the party encounters. This could be an NPC interaction, a combat encounter, a puzzle, or a building to search. This may vary for your group, but I know that I can typically run 3 encounters in a 3-hour session for my group of 5 players. Depending on your group size or how quickly your players move, you might be able to pack more in. But generally, I know that my players can roleplay with 1 NPC, have a very minor combat encounter or some rooms to search, and then 1 major combat encounter. When you add in the adventure introduction, all of the roleplay between the players, and the conclusion, that'll fill a 3-hour session. But how do you limit the number of encounters? This leads me to my next tip, which is to be mindful of the number of choices you are putting in front of your players in a one-shot. Many pre-written adventures involve exploring buildings or castles or dungeons. These adventures have great maps with so many wonderfully detailed rooms and fun surprises inside, which naturally means my players will want to explore each and every one. Exploring dungeons and rooms can be a ton of fun, and in a longer campaign, it's great to spend 4 or 5 sessions combing through every room to see all the fun surprises. But if you want to get to the conclusion of your adventure in one sitting, you just don't have time. If you are writing your own adventure, then you can just build less rooms, which is an easy fix. But if you're running a pre-written adventure, then go through all of the descriptions and just pick out 3 or 4 that are the most interesting. As your players move through the building, describe your chosen rooms in detail, asking your players if they want to go in. For the rooms that you want to breeze past, have the doors be fully open and describe what's inside from the hallway, so there's no intrigue. You can allow them to investigate the room with a check, and if they succeed, have them find something mundane, like a to-do list and a quill. The key here is to not obscure anything from your players and immediately fully answer any questions they might have about the room. If you are seeming to withhold any information, that will create intrigue, and your players will surely spend the next hour investigating every nook and cranny, trying to figure out what they're missing. Now, back to the character motivations that I mentioned earlier. If your group likes to RP, then character motivations can be quite important to them. I know that I often find myself asking the question, why would my character be going with these people? In real life, it's because I want to play D&D with my friends and not sit by myself doing a bunch of weird voices anymore. But it feels better if I can find an in-game reason to follow this random group of people, possibly to the death. You can help your players out with this by giving them a shared backstory hook while they're making their characters. It can be helpful to choose one that relates to your adventure. For example, if the adventure hook is that the party is being sent to investigate something mysterious, then have them run a private investigation firm together. Or you can pick one that doesn't connect to the adventure. The most important thing is that the hook has some predetermined social dynamics built in. What I mean by that is, The hook is a real life or pop culture social situation that everyone is familiar with. They can then use that situation as a reference for how they might interact with the other players in the party. Most people are familiar with how siblings might interact with each other. So if that's your shared backstory hook, it gives your players a head start in how to roleplay with the other characters in the party. Some more character hook ideas are they could be students at the same academy, they could be members of the town guard or some other work situation, they could be in a band together, or if all else fails, they can be a group of 20-something-year-old paleontologists living it up in New York City. Just a whole party of Rosses. Another way to speed up your one-shot is to simplify your combat encounters and give yourself an easy way to end combat if it's dragging on. If your final combat encounter is starting to drag on and your players are getting restless, it's great to have a get out of combat free card tucked into your back pocket. This can be reinforcements arriving, or the BBEG's underlings fleeing, or some sort of external factor that causes your big bad to surrender or flee. Although, in order for this to feel natural and not like it's your DM saying, "I'm ready to go home now," you need to lay the groundwork for whatever that combat ending scenario is throughout the session. This could be having an NPC go for help early on and then bring back allies later, or maybe one of the minions spills some information that the big bad is only after X and they will surely surrender if Y happens. As long as you hint at the combat ending scenario ahead of time, it shouldn't feel too contrived. A great way to simplify and speed up your minor combat encounters is to run a Theater of the Mind encounter. And if you want to learn how to run better Theater of the Mind encounters, you can watch this video here. And hey, I appreciate you.